Today, we are going to talk about Thanksgiving Day. But not any Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving 1883.
Oh, yay. I like going back in time.
Today's date is what, Robin?
June 30th, 2025.
All right, so why am I showing you this corner of the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel in downtown Ocala?
Uh-huh.
The reason is because in 1883, that wasn't there. But what was there is the beginning of our story about the fire that happened on Thanksgiving morning of 1883, right here on the corner of Southeast 1st Avenue and Silver Springs Boulevard.
That's correct.
But at that time, Silver Springs Boulevard was called Ocala
Avenue, yeah.
and Southeast 1st Avenue was called Main Street.
Main Street.
All right.
Yeah.
So what happened, Robin?
Okay, well, this is about the Ocala fire of 1883, as you said. The fire started in the two-story frame store called Benjamin and Company, and that's the store that was located back then at the southeast corner of Main Street and Ocala Avenue.
Right.
There was an employee of the store, a clerk at that time, that was sleeping on the second floor of the store. They had a lit kerosene lamp.
Which would have been about up there somewhere.
And they accidentally knocked over that kerosene lamp, and that ignited the fire. There were a lot of mattresses on that second floor, so
Right.
it was very easy for them to ignite, and that's how the fire is surmised to begin.
The mattresses provided fuel
Exactly.
for the fire. So the fire then spread all the way down there. We're going to tell you about that next. All right, so we have established, we're trying to make sure this is accurate. We're looking at our notes. So we have established that the fire started right there on the second floor, 1883. Now this whole block is occupied now by the new Hilton Garden Inn, but at that time there were three businesses on this block. There was the Benjamin and Company store, and then in the middle, what was the one in the middle?
It was Snowden's drugstore.
A drugstore. And on the far end over there?
Was the brand new Ocala House Hotel.
So there was a hotel there. So, okay.
Yeah.
So that block has been a hotel. Now when you and I were, several years ago, this whole block was occupied by the Chamber of Commerce.
Exactly.
All right. So now I'm aimed kind of at the middle of the hotel, the new hotel.
Correct.
And what was there again? That was a
Oh, the middle was Snowden's drugstore.
drugstore. Now
Yeah.
read what happened there.
Okay, well, the fire spread, and it destroyed Snowden's drugstore. It was a frame building, and the fire quickly engulfed it. It also engulfed the new Ocala House Hotel, all frame buildings.
Yeah.
And by that time, the bucket brigade was available here, and they couldn't save it.
Okay. Now the fire.
Ooh, Ocala Fire
Coincidentally, look at this coincidence. Ding, 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 ding.
Rescue. Oh my gosh,
There we go.
how wonderful.
There's the Ocala Fire Department.
That's
We're going to tell you
great.
about that too, by the way.
Yeah.
But the fire spread all the way down there to what used to be called Orange Street, like 2 blocks south of Broadway. So like a 3-block stretch.
That's right, and it's all started on the east side of Main Street, which is right here,
Right.
and the fire went down between Broadway and Fort King Avenue.
All right. So then it also jumped across. Now at that time, right here on the square, there was a courthouse.
Oh, there was, sure.
And it eventually also burned down. It was the first courthouse that was on this square.
Correct.
The second courthouse, as you know, was rebuilt, and then that was torn down. I think Jack Copeland told us it was torn down in the 60s,
Oh, yeah.
I think. But the first one is the one we want to tell you about. It was right here, and it burned down. But over here, on the south side of the square, where now you have Harry's, and Harry's is an important, the Marion Block building is where Harry's is.
That's correct.
And that's an important part of the story, but we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
What I think is interesting is a lot of Ocala history was archived, if you will, in the offices of the newspaper,
That's right.
which was called the Ocala Banner. Before it was called the Ocala Star Banner.
Sure.
And it was one of these buildings here. Well, it was one of these. This whole block burned down. Everything on this block was made out of wood, and it all burned down.
Exactly.
So what do you have?
Oh, talking about the fire moved. There was a business called Schlosser's Barber Shop.
Oh.
And all of the buildings that were located on the east side of Main Street between Broadway and Fort King were destroyed. The wind did do a shift. The fire turned westward across Main Street, and it destroyed another 2 blocks to Orange Street.
Yeah.
And talking about the Ocala Banner newspaper office, which was located on the south side of this public square, it was destroyed. The home of its editor was right next door, and 1 additional residence was consumed.
Wow.
What's very interesting about that, the population in 1880 was 803, and General Ulysses S. Grant visited Ocala in 1880. He came right here to the vicinity of the courthouse square, and that followed his term as president and a world tour that he went on. And then at the time of his visit, there were only a few buildings built around the square. So by 1883, more buildings were erected.
So as we walk through this downtown area, which we've done many times, either without a camera or with a camera,
Yeah.
or recently with Jack Copeland, if you look at his video
Oh, sure.
and read he's got an interesting walking tour you can get also. But a lot of this whole area was in flames. The whole thing, Thanksgiving Day. Can you imagine? I don't know what Thanksgiving was like in 1883.
Yeah.
But I know that they were probably, I'm just guessing, looking forward to a relaxing day.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
And on that particular day, there were 3 special trains provided by the Florida Southern Railroad. And there was a crowd of 2,000 people. They all wanted to hop on these trains and go to Lake Weir for a Thanksgiving Day outing. So that's pretty interesting.
Very interesting. Now this building right here has some history. This was built after the fire. And you can probably, maybe you can't tell, it's all painted white, but that's all brick.
Yeah.
And many of the buildings here are brick because when they rebuilt the town, they said, you know what, we're not going to use wood anymore, we're going to use brick, so it became known as Brick City. And in fact, there's a newspaper article from the Ocala Banner, which we're going to show you the paper. And I think one of the first things it said in the article was Ocala is no more. It was news that was across the whole country, that this little town in Florida had burned down. Can you imagine? I mean, it's hard. Back then, it was hard to get news to spread that quickly.
Sure.
But that apparently didn't stop the news from spreading. All right, we're going to keep walking.
Okay.
All right, so now, that building right there, which is now the Lodge Cafe, Pub, and Eatery, began as the First National Bank. Is that what it said?
Yes.
That was when it was first rebuilt. But before that, the wooden structure that burned was the Palace Hotel.
Yep, and it was brand new at the time.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
And now whose home was near it?
Okay, so just south of the Palace Hotel then, located right on Magnolia.
Right.
It was the home of Dr. Thomas Gary and then James H. Whitfield's boarding house.
Wow.
And that was at the end of the Fort King Avenue. So that whole block right there went up in flames.
Okay.
Everything was in flames. And then around that area, there was another dwelling. We don't know whose that was. There was a mill that processed the Spanish moss from the live oak trees. That was used for various uses, and that was destroyed before the fire ceased.
Very interesting. All right. Keep in mind where we're walking, Thanksgiving 1883, this was all burned up, all gone.
That's right.
And this was pretty much the whole town at that time. All right, we'll keep walking. So while we were walking to the next spot, I wanted to point something out to you. this street, this stretch of Magnolia is now paved with bricks. And I think it's in homage, don't you think?
I think so
To the
too.
name Brick City.
Yeah, I think so too.
But this was done in our time.
Yeah, and most of the bricks were manufactured at a plant in Alabama.
Oh, really?
Because they provided most of the bricks.
Isn't that true
ALA,
for
Alabama.
the
old
Dixie Highway?
yeah.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
it's the same
so
place.
Same place. So that's what's interesting about the bricks. And they're all named, you see, Birmingham, Alabama.
Let's see.
On the bricks, see.
Oh, I never even noticed that.
B-Ham, ALA.
Oh, Copeland. Hey, Jack. Does Jack know his name is on these? Wow.
Nice.
Didn't know.
Nice.
And I'm assuming that back then there was no theater there at that
Correct.
time. But anyway, it's got some interesting history here, and we've walked through Ocala. We've talked about Ocala. We've talked about it, you know, from what we know, but we don't know much about 1883.
No, I thought that was very, very interesting. On November 29th, by the way, was Thanksgiving Day.
Oh,
and
okay.
the fire was supposed to have started in the early pre-dawn hours. So that's what the historians say.
If you think about how far we have walked so far and how far the fire spread, it's just incredible. The whole thing must have looked like a war zone
I'm sure it did.
at that time.
That's something I could be sure of, with all those flames, and then the bucket brigades were out and they weren't able to, somebody forgot their sunglasses.
Yep. By the way, this is Ivy House.
Ivy House, yeah.
Nice restaurant.
Yeah, very nice. But no, the bucket brigades, they could only do so much. A lot of the people, of the 2,000 people that wanted to hit the trades to go to Lake Weir, they were all out there manning buckets and water, trying to save the town.
Now, an interesting thing, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but an interesting thing is that the lesson learned was to build with brick and steel. I think they used steel or aluminum or something, but brick was, of course, the primary thing. And here's what I think might rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah.
A lot of the newer buildings, not these ones, this is all brick. You see the brick? But a lot of the newer buildings are being made out of wood.
Exactly.
Lumber. And
That's right.
they're having facades, fake frontages that look like
That looked like brick.
There's bricks. Look at the front of this store here.
Wow, isn't that something?
Oh, this is called the Brick Social. Oh, this is an intimate venue.
Ooh,
What does that mean, actually?
nice. I don't know.
But what's cool about that, the picture right here is it shows the old town. We're gonna, in this video, hopefully you've seen some already, some of the old pictures.
Yeah, but that's a good thing to point out, because the new hotel, the Hilton Garden Inn, they built the bottom with blocks, and then all
And
of
steel.
the stories in steel, but all
Or
the
aluminum.
stories after that was all wood. All of the apartment buildings that are 4 or 5 stories here, the townhouses, they're all being built out of wood.
Yep.
And so I don't know if Ocala can still be called Brick City anymore, because everything that you see going up now is all built out of wood.
All right, so we're gonna walk in the alleyway here,
Okay.
and we're gonna go behind some of these buildings that were built after the wooden buildings were all burned down.
Sure.
So again, we're walking in a place that was in flames in 1883, Thanksgiving Day. The turkey dinner was spoiled.
That's right.
The newspaper on everybody's front porch in the whole country told the story of the small town in Florida that has burned to the ground. And it took them like at least 4 years, I think, to get going again, right?
Yeah, it did. And in total, 10 stores were wiped out. 5 blocks of the business district were left in ashes, or else their chimneys, you could still see the chimneys, but they were all blackened.
Wow.
They estimated $350,000 in losses. in that time. Some were insured, some were not. Rescued articles ignited when they were placed too close to the fire's path. And don't you know, there were thieves and looters that
Oh my
just
gosh.
came out and was stealing everything.
So it wasn't bad enough to have everything burn, but they had thieves
That's
stealing
right.
stuff. Well, that still happens today. Humanity has not grown up yet.
Numerous records were destroyed. That included the newspaper files that contained a great deal of the Ocala and Marion County's early history. Many people were left homeless. And that's so sad, so sad.
All right, so I'm walking over here so I can show you the plaque on the building. So there's the Hilton Garden Inn where we started,
That's right.
but now we're at the south side of it. But on this building to my left, this brick building is called the Marion Block Building.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll show you the plaque and then we'll tell you what it says. Here it is. Here it is. So it's the Marion Block Building, erected in 1885. See where it says following a Thanksgiving Day fire
That's right.
that destroyed the downtown business district. It originally housed the county's first opera house. So the wooden one did, or did this one? Did the brick one?
The brick one did, yeah.
Okay.
And it housed its first mechanical elevator, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. That's
Very cool.
They also have a newer thing with a QR code if you want to. I don't know if you can do it
Sure.
with a video. I don't know how that works. But anyway, a lot of history before the brick buildings were put up, but there's also history since they were put up. Like this used to be a drugstore, now it's Harry's.
That's right.
And as we mentioned in Jack Copeland's video, this was also featured it was the drugstore in the movie The Old Army Game
With W.C. Fields.
with W.C. Fields.
Fun movie to watch too, and a lot of the scenes were filmed in Ocala
Right.
and Marion County.
All right, now let's go over to the firehouse. All right, now we're standing at the parking garage. And this is very important because, why, Robin?
Because this is where the firehouse was.
But it wasn't built until when? 1885?
It was 1885, yeah,
Okay.
you're right.
Called the Marion something?
The first firehouse was called the Marion Steam, Fire Engine, and Hook and Ladder Companies.
Wow. All right, so let me go across the street and show you the plaque for that.
Okay.
All right, so here's the plaque I wanted to show you. And there's the photograph, and I'll do a close-up of that photograph. I have it also saved in my computer. But this is what the plaque says. Ocala Fire Department. The Ocala Fire Department was established following the devastating Thanksgiving Day fire of 1883, which destroyed 5 square blocks downtown. As a result, a brick fire station was constructed on this site right here where the parking garage is. This is the parking garage.
That's right.
Right here, just in case you can't tell. It's just a big old wall. Let's see. When there's a bell behind us, we're going to show you that. The Mammoth Bell could be heard throughout the city when it was rung. The number of bells signaled which area of town the fire was located. Fortunately, the bell was saved when the fire station was raised in 1968. Now we're going to walk over and show you that bell
Okay.
because it is on display. And one thing I read this morning, Robin,
Mm-hmm.
was that the bell was, I think, at street level. And then it was
okay.
moved to a tower
Okay.
in the new firehouse, I think. So here's the fire bell. There it is. What do you
That's
think?
pretty amazing.
Pretty big.
That's pretty amazing.
And when I'll read the plaque, it says, the bell, dated 1889. Okay, so the bell was like 5 years after the firehouse.
Uh-huh.
The bell was originally located on the corner of Osceola Avenue and Fort King Street. Okay. In 1894, it was placed in the bell tower of the new fire station where I just showed you, where it remained for 74 years. The bell was rung when fires occurred at noon each day and on Saturday evenings at 9 o'clock. So you knew what time it was, and you knew if there was a fire.
Sure. And the reason that they were able to afford to build the fire department is that within weeks of the Thanksgiving Day fire, fire bonds in the amount of $2,500 were authorized to be sold to raise the needed monies to fund a first-rate fire department. The existing volunteer firemen were absorbed into the newly created fire department. William Fox was elected to serve as Ocala's first fire chief. The original fire companies were named Marion Steam Fire Engine Company No. 1 and Ocala Hook and Ladder Company No. 1.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing. And almost immediately, the rebuilding of the town began. All of the frame buildings were replaced with buildings that utilized brick, granite, and metal. And within 5 years, Ocala was identified throughout the state as the Brick City.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's go find some place where we can sit and tell the rest of the story if there
Okay.
is much more. We want to show you where we're getting this information from also. So we're going to sit someplace. So right now, we are actually in the parking garage. And while that might not seem like much to most people, if you think about it, we're standing in the very spot that was the first fire department in Ocala. Right here. Right here by this door here.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I
Yeah.
think it's very cool that this was the first fire department.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's the other angle of the garage where used to stand the firehouse, the fire department,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're in the backyard, I guess you would say,
Yes.
of City Hall. And there's City Hall, Ocala City Hall. That's where
They
the
named
mayor,
this area Citizen Circle.
Citizen Circle. If you can tell, they built a stage there, and during events, there are musical acts up there and high school dancers, and it's very active. A lot of art usually gets put on display here.
It does, and that's a splash pad park over there for the kids.
Splash pad, yeah. But right now, for old men, there's a blue bench waiting for me. All right, we're going to sit down and learn a little bit more about the fire.
Oh,
All right, hey, look, you can see us now.
woo!
I don't think we've been on the video today.
No,
First
but
time.
It's okay, yeah.
All right, so
Yeah,
what
it's
else do we
okay.
need? What else do you know about the fire?
Well, after the fire, there were large 2- and 3-story buildings that were built. They were all built out of brick because they didn't want that fire to happen again.
Right.
And the buildings were not just thrown up there or anything. They were designed in a very modern way, which was modern to the late 1800s.
Yeah, right,
so it was
right.
pretty amazing.
Wow, very cool.
And they did choose brick, and the masons really made sure that that brick was fireproof. Because when the buildings burnt down that were all wood, chimneys were left standing, the brick was charred, but there wasn't any issues
Right.
with the...
All right, let me show you the walkway here.
Okay.
There's the walkway outside of City Hall, and what is it made out of? It's made out of brick.
It's a brick.
What else do you have? Anything?
Okay, I've got that in 1883, the Marion Opera House, it was built, the Marion Block building that we showed you earlier, 3 stories, and that was erected. And the architect there was D.C. Wharton Smith of Philadelphia. Other buildings that
Really?
rose up was Ocala's first 2 bank buildings, the Montezuma Hotel, Rheinauer's, which was a very, very posh store,
Oh, wow.
the Union Block and Gary Block buildings, and then there were several wholesale warehouses that were built, and there were more than 25 retail establishments. Visitors came everywhere from the north and the west. They were authors, railroad engineers, they were orange grove owners, they were planters, real estate brokers, and European travelers. So when they went to the Ocala House Hotel, that's how we know what their businesses were, because they all had to sign in.
They had to sign in.
Yeah. And then there was a temporary courthouse on the public square. That began in the early 1880s.
Oh, really?
And yep, so the new courthouse was completed in 1884. It was topped with a cupola, that really pretty, round thing that's up there.
Right. Okay.
And the rebuilding of Ocala was getting so popular that there were a number of merchants that traveled from Jacksonville to Ocala, and they were looking at the square and everything. And then they decided to build stores there that were annexes of the main stores. So that was pretty cool.
All right, now listen to this. Robin wrote a book called The Day Harriet Beecher Stowe Visited Silver Springs.
Yes.
And in her research, because I know your book,
you illustrated it.
go ahead and tell them about how she got here. And I'm guessing those guys from Jacksonville got here the same way. Explain how Harriet Beecher Stowe made her way to Silver Springs.
Oh yeah, Harriet Beecher Stowe came down, and she booked passage on steamboat.
Right.
And that steamboat originated in Jacksonville. At the time, it was named Mandarin. The city was named Mandarin. That's where she and everybody else lived.
Right.
And then eventually it was incorporated into the entire Jacksonville city and county. And she came down on a steamboat.
On the St. Johns River.
On the St. Johns River, which left the St. Johns River for a couple of days. And then it entered the Ocala River.
Right.
And then a couple days later, it entered the Silver River.
Right.
And then it ended up at the headwaters of Silver Springs.
Right.
So beautiful.
So
it
while,
was in March.
and in Robin's book, it doesn't say that Harriet Beecher Stowe ever came to Ocala proper, but she went to Silver Springs.
That's right.
And years later, another famous author came here by car.
Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings.
Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings, who wrote The Yearling and Cross Creek.
Oh, yeah. And she bought property. Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings bought property up in Cross Creek, which is around Gainesville area now.
What I find interesting with this whole story is that the historical records of the whole area were maintained by the newspaper, not by the local government, not by the state government, but by the newspaper. So a lot of those, little facts and little details about our community here in Ocala are gone forever.
Yeah, because of that. But our thanks go to the foresight of the people in the printed media, which they took the time to preserve the history.
Yes. So we want to show you. We have to thank, of course, the Ocala Star-Banner. A lot of the information that we have is from there. And Robin held on to a publication. Show the look at this. Check this out. Robin saved this.
Get the publication.
I think it was 1997 that this came out.
Yep. And there is the steamboat, the picture that Harriet Beecher Stowe traveled on to the headwaters. But isn't this a wonderful publication, Marion County History, that was published by the Star-Banner
in 1997?
Yep, and it's got so many articles. Rough Ride for Royal, A Fight for Elegance in Marion.
Now here,
new businesses and not quite oil boom hit the town. So nice.
Right, and to name a couple of people whose work we are getting information from. One is David Cook. David Cook wrote an amazingly comprehensive book about Ocala.
Oh yeah,
and,
wonderful.
Laura Burns had written some articles that we got information from. We know Laura, and so thank you, Laura, for that. And Kelly Turner, also, we found an article from Kelly Turner.
Oh, sure.
That we found was really interesting.
And the Carlos Medina wrote an article about how the Cuban artists hand-rolled cigars. You can find that on one of our other videos.
Yeah,
Jack's video.
And the cigar rolling place, and now we're a little bit away from the fire of 1883.
Yeah.
But the cigar rolling place was the same building that is now, Scientology.
Yes.
Right? The religious, I don't know if it's religious, L. Ron Hubbard's thing.
Yeah, the Scientology
let me show the butterfly. Hold on.
Okay.
There's the butterfly. And look, I don't think I've ever seen it turn before, but it's windy enough today to turn.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that beautiful?
I've never seen it turn before.
I never have either.
Well,
the breeze hasn't been.
We never knew it was an animated sculpture.
No, it is gorgeous. Isn't it beautiful?
Is it a butterfly or is it a dragonfly?
I think it's a butterfly.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. We'd have to look at the plaque.
I have to ask the mayor.
That's right.
All right, all right. I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's the mayor's name?
Okay.
Ben.
Marciano.
Hey,
Mayor
there you
Ben
go.
Marciano.
Is he home today? That's his office, right?
Yep, his office is right up there.
We should go knock on his door.
But Marion County has such a vast history. Ocala, Marion County, Dunellen's included in Marion County, Bellevue is, all of the outside cities, really, really great stuff. And so you can read up on all of this history from Marion County and Ocala, Bellevue, Dunellen, the Boomtown days with the mines down there, the evolution of how the racehorses came to be here because of the lime rock and everything. In fact, when the roads were being rebuilt downtown, they used a lot of the lime rock. They actually had a lime rock plant in southwest Ocala that they derived the lime rock from to rebuild the roads after the Great Fire. And that lime rock was also used as building material. So huge history.
What I wanted to add to that is the other day, we drove to the future. We did. We drove to where Buc-ee's is going to be built.
Yeah.
And a new exit off of I-75 is going to be built.
Exactly.
And that looks like that's an old lime rock pit too. An old lime rock mine, a phosphate mine, whatever.
Yeah, it does.
Sure looks like it.
Really, really does. So.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff here in Ocala, Marion County, but I love the fact that, the founders of Ocala had the foresight to build all of the buildings out of brick, so in case there was another fire, it wouldn't burn down. But now I think it's going back to wood. Buildings are being built out of wood.
A lot of lumber.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens in the future.
Let's hope nothing bad happens.
No. Do you want me to hold it?
All right, so yeah, let me read. I want to read from the article now.
Okay.
By the way, there's a train in the background.
Nice.
Sound of a train. So I'm reading from an article.
Oh, wait.
I'm reading from an article that Kelly Turner wrote. We knew Kelly Turner, too.
Oh, yeah,
we
wonderful.
Still know him.
He's a great journalist.
He writes, the origin of the fire that destroyed 5 blocks in Ocala on Thanksgiving Day, 1883 is unknown. Yeah, it was some guy who was sleeping, Robin told you. Some believe it may have started when a kerosene lamp overturned in the room of 2 clerks. See, Robin told you this. Sleeping at the Benjamin and Company building on the corner of Main Street and Ocala, which is now Southeast 1st Avenue and Silver Springs Boulevard. Regardless of the source, the fire did more than consume dozens of businesses, 2 hotels, and priceless historical records at the Ocala Banner, later known as the Ocala Star Banner. You should be in the picture there.
Okay.
It permanently changed Ocala's architectural landscape, as Robin told you, going from wood to brick to glass to steel. Anyway, November 29th, 1883, that's the date we've focused on with this video. Supposed to be a relaxing one for 2,000 his Banner subscribers. he was playing to his audience at that time, right? Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I know it tells you the same story Robin just told you, but
it's very interesting because we have people that we know that actually, were wonderful people within our community. They all love living here. They just really, really enjoyed Ocala, Marion County, and they immersed themselves in history.
All right.
And they cared enough to put out this kind of publication and spearhead it.
So here's some bonus information. Hey, don't do that. All right, I don't know why it does that. All right, here's some bonus information.
Okay.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Sylvester Stallone once hitchhiked from Philadelphia to Ocala, Florida.
Yeah, he was 16, I think.
He was 16 years old.
Yep.
He was not famous. He was not rich. And he purposely got arrested so that he could be sent back, because juveniles are sent back to where they come from.
Without, they don't have any money, so the city gives them the money, buys them the bus ticket to send it back.
So whatever year Sylvester Stallone was 16 years old. And if you don't believe me, his daughters have a podcast. Look up Sylvester Stallone's daughter's podcast and look up, when he was a guest on their own show.
Oh,
He was a guest on their show.
Yeah.
Not a way Not a bad way to gain a little bit of an audience.
No, this is great.
So, another trivia thing.
Okay.
Bobby Goldsboro, the singer, songwriter. He was huge at one point.
Yeah.
I think he still lives here.
Yeah, he does.
And he came into the studio and chatted with Robin and I on the radio show.
Uh-huh.
And he had a series of children's books also that he wrote, and I think illustrated, right?
Right,
Not
he did.
sure.
It was about the animals that lived in Silver Springs because Silver Springs kept his books there for sale.
Right. And then...
When it was a tourist attraction, now it's a beautiful state park.
And do you have any other famous names you could do some name dropping?
Oh my gosh, Mel Tillis.
Mel Tillis?
Mel Tillis lived
Lives here.
yeah.
So did his daughter.
Yeah,
Right?
yep.
I can't
His
remember
daughter.
her name.
Yep, they have a recording
Any
studio
other
here.
famous person that lives here?
Let's
You might
see.
want to think about. You want to be a name dropper a little bit?
Well, John Travolta, everybody drops his name.
There we go.
Yeah, everybody drops his name.
Well, he's famous, Robin.
Yeah, yeah. But I've got something cool about Bobby Goldsboro because when my daughter rode horses, she rode Pasifina horses and competed. We were at the ranch one day and there was a young lady there and she had made a jacket for Bobby Goldsboro.
Oh, okay.
A leather jacket, beautiful, because she showed us and then she gave it to him. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
And who's the
too.
other young lady who lives here who is a bona fide celebrity?
You know.
Who writes to us sometimes to tell us
yeah.
about the horses because
Ooh,
she's
there's
very
a
much a
train.
horsewoman. Her name is
You go.
Linda Blair.
Yeah.
Linda, if you're watching, we want to meet you sometime. We haven't met
Yeah,
you.
that would be great. Let's see if the train comes by here.
Would it come by here?
Well, this is the track for the red train.
Well, then maybe it will.
Yeah, we hear it. Yeah, 'cause she was in those movies when she was like, what, 13 or 14? She was, or 9.
That's what
she
she's
was young.
her claim to fame, but she's got other
Yeah.
movies also.
Oh, yeah, and she is an avid equestrian, so.
Anybody else we can
beautiful
think of? I'm
person.
trying to draw my... There's the guy, Bruce Mozart, the
Oh,
photographer.
Bruce Mozart is absolutely, absolutely incredible.
The underwater photographer.
Yeah, yeah.
Mark Emery,
Right,
who
exactly.
photographs and videotapes for National Geographic and Disney.
Exactly, and there's
Whoa,
Jordan,
I'm turning it
Jordan
around. I'm turning
Klein
around. Hold on.
Sr.
All right, there's a train over there somewhere.
Yeah,
Not
he'll
sure
be
exactly
coming up.
where.
We hear
Not
his-
sure what direction it's coming from.
Well, we were talking Jordan Klein Sr. and Jordan Klein Jr. They're aerial photographers, and
Right.
they do a great job.
And Tarzan was here.
Yeah, and because of Bruce Mozart, he invented the underwater camera housing, and that's how people could get underwater shots because he.
I have an underwater camera housing.
Yeah,
Where is it?
it's just sounds like it's there. It must
It
be
sure
so
does.
slow.
But
Oh,
on the other
here
hand, it could be
comes.
reflecting off of that wall.
It could. We could walk over there if you wanted
We
to,
could.
because the tracks are right there. We could walk.
All right. You got me. Talk me into it. Get me off my butt.
There he is. He's coming.
You see him?
I see him. See him?
Oh, I see him. I see it. There it is.
Took 2 engines to pull all this freight.
Wow.
2 engines to pull the freight.
Here's the end. Passenger trains don't come through Ocala anymore.
No, they do
Only
not.
freight trains.
That's correct.
That was cool.
Very cool. Okay.
All right, kids. Well, I hope you enjoyed our video. We might have veered a little bit from the focal point
Yeah.
of the fire of 1883, but hopefully we got it out there and you'll know what happened now on Thanksgiving Day 1883.
Exactly. So take care. Be. Oh, can't see your face. There you go. Take care. Be good. Don't forget to write.
See what it is? We're at two different heights.
Well, I know I don't have my high heels on
Yeah.
today.
Let me look down at us.
So there you go.
Yeah, look down like all good selfies. All right, take care, be good, don't forget to write.
Remember, writing is very important.
And the world
Spins fine.
when it's made out of brick.
And on her own.
All right, hold on, let me show you the clouds. It looks like it's gonna rain. Bonus footage of a stormy looking sky.
Exactly.
Bonus footage. Bonus footage. Bonus footage.